looks like, right? There's different type of biases, which means that people have preconceived notions or misconceptions about a particular person or group of peoples. Usually it is cultural identity based, like we were saying, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, age, body type, if you're different ability status, if you're neurodivergent, things of that nature. So if there's biases towards you in your appearance, like Charlene was saying, related to the Crown Act. And if you're not aware of the Crown Act, that's specifically about addressing discrimination based on race-based hairstyles, in particular, hairstyles that Black people of, Black or African descent usually have, or specifically a hair texture, right? And Crown stands for Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. So if you're in an environment, how it can be difficult to be authentic when your true, when part of your true identity and what you look like naturally is discriminated against. You essentially, in a dress code, someone can say no locks, no afro, no braids, right? And if you think of locks and cornrows and afro natural hair, that's how a lot of people's hair of Black descent, that's how it grows out of their scalp, right? Is how my hair grows out of my head. If I don't do anything to it, if I don't straighten it in some sort of way, it is, it has a natural texture. And for a long time, and still now in work settings, you can get past a discrimination by saying, this is our dress code. And a dress code says you cannot have, Afro hairstyle or braids or locks or cornrows. And that was legally permissible. And then, so the Crown Act in 2019 tries to address that you can't discriminate because I'm wearing my hair based on how it grows out of my head. Right. Right. And so if you think about authenticity and the many forms of it, if you think about gender bias and people's differing perceptions of women leaders, women can be direct and effective decision makers and directing their communication style, and they're called negative names, right? They're cold, they're combative, they're aggressive, right? Where if a male leader did the same thing, it's like, he's an excellent leader. He's a strong leader. He's, he knows how to lead his team. He knows how to make effective decisions and move forward, right? And so if you have that going on in the workplace as well, these things that are outside of you, but how people perceive you or treat you based on your identities, then it's hard to be authentic. Because if I want to wear my hair natural and literally in the dress code, it says that I can, how can I really show up as my full self if you're saying, I don't want your full self here, even in the way that you appear? Okay. So that's something that still goes on and is an aspect of how you show up in the workplace. And we're running out of time, so I'm gonna keep going, even though that could be a whole presentation. Okay. Here's some benefits. And I'll go over those quickly. Builds trust and credibility, promotes psychological safety, promotes employee engagement, encourages collaboration and innovation, and promotes resiliency and adaptability. And that all happens because, again, if you are an organization or if you have leadership that's saying, these are our values, this is how we're moving forward, this is how we're treating each other in this space, and it's safe to do so, to give feedback, to make mistakes, to collaborate, to learn, and it's consistent that we're able to do that without negative repercussions or negative retaliation, then everybody's all in, everybody's invested, right? You trust, you engage, you collaborate, and you're resilient because at the end of the day, your leader and your leadership is there for the greater good. And that helps you be able to move forward. Okay. So given time, we're going to close out and talk a bit more about how do you cultivate authenticity. So some of you have already talked about this a bit. You probably talked about it in your group of how you do that. So the key to cultivating authenticity is really be self-reflective and take time to be self-reflective. Schedule and prioritize time for self-reflection. However you do that, if you're a spiritual religious person, you pray, you may meditate, journal, exercise, right? You may seek counseling or therapy to be able to hone in on how you really feel about things, right? And pay attention to your thoughts and feelings. What brings you joy? What motivates you? What stresses you out? What drains you? Who stresses you out? Who drains you, right? What activities at work? If you're in a day when you're working on something in particular, do you feel like, oh, that was good, I enjoyed it, oh, I'm contributing so much? Or you did something all day and you're like, I'm zapped. That was doing a whole lot of stuff I do not like to do, which you sometimes have to do. But examine the percentage of that. Identify your core values, that activity we did earlier, and do your actions align with those values. Spend time with people who affirm you and encourage your authenticity. There's nothing better to being around someone who's like, we're both just quirky, we're just being ourselves, and you love me being me and I love you being you, and you just feel like motivated and great and with that person, instead of feeling like, let me change this about myself and let me not show this and let me not say that, and let me appear to be this way so they won't judge me. I'll just also practice self-compassion and self-acceptance. Self-compassion meaning, speak to yourself like you would speak to your best friend. If you're a good best friend, you will uplift your friend. You will give grace to your friend, right? You will give them advice and suggestions to say, it's okay. You don't have to be perfect, right? You don't have to get it right all the time. I still love you. Talk to yourself like that, right? A lot of times we're like, oh, why do we do that? Why don't we know that? Why don't we do better? Ugh, why do we keep doing that? Talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Also, self-acceptance, almost like a radical acceptance of who you are. Not maybe the pieces that, may be self-destructive, but the pieces of, these are some qualities about myself that are great qualities, and I'm gonna accept that. Or just aspects of you, like, oh, I love to read, I like to go to cultural museums and take nature walks. I don't have to like, other things that people like. I accept me. I accept me, the good and the bad, and whatever can be improved. And until that improves, I still love me. Okay. So that's how you cultivate authenticity. And we are really at time, a little bit over time. So we don't have time for questions, but they can put the survey in the chat. We thank you so